Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Iblis Manifestations podcast. This channel features lengthy off-limits conversations with various different artists and entrepreneurs, predominantly from the underground metal scene. We take deep dives into the topics of life, music, spirituality, and take insight from a variety of thought-provoking perspectives from personalities who you don't often hear from in a mainstream settings. I am your host, Cheyenne, and I was originally born and raised in Iran and currently reside in the UK. I am the frontman and founding member of the black death metal band TRIVAX, who have been active since 2009. The band originally started in the Islamic Republic of Iran, where such type of music is banned as well as a punishable offense. You can check the band's pages for any updates on tour dates as well as new music. I am also a personal trainer and an online fitness coach who specializes in people achieving the best versions of themselves physically and mentally. Having been someone who was once extremely out of shape and overweight, I find it to be my duty to be able to pass on the information and knowledge which I've gained to help others achieve the same transformation. The Iblis Manifestations podcast also features a variety of solo episodes where I discuss personal experiences and anecdotes in a very candid fashion, covering everything from mental health, spirituality, philosophy, and even paranormal experiences. This is the Iblis Manifestations podcast. To support it, be sure to subscribe to the channel and visit the link in the descriptions.
It's great talking to you, Cheyenne, really. And best of luck to your endeavors with this podcast. I think it's a great initiative.
You're my favorite person to talk to for interviews and stuff. So I love what you're espousing out here. I love the knowledge and the perspectives that you're curating through this, and I'm just so honored to be a part of it. Thank you.
As I told you, it was one of the most interesting interviews I've ever had, because we talk a lot more things than just music, and I really appreciated that.
I respect you deeply, and it's an honor to be here.
And friends, remember as always, better to die on your feet than to live on your knees. Enjoy the podcast. All right then, Ben and Chloe. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on this evening. How are you both doing?
Yeah, really good, thanks.
Yeah, good, thanks,
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Awesome. Well, it's absolutely my pleasure. I appreciate that you guys have a business to run, and you're both very busy, so I do very much appreciate your time. It was lovely meeting you both down at the incineration. That was just a month ago, wasn't it? Yeah. You were both very, very accommodating, and thank you for letting me have the shop. And yeah, it's a great shop. I mean, for anyone who's not been there yet, I couldn't recommend it enough. I mean, seeing the TRIVAX LP on the wall, that immediately sold it to me, so I don't know if I'm speaking from a biased place, but yeah, you guys have got a pretty cool thing going on there. It's nice to see that in Camden.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, that was one thing we wanted to kind of bring back to Camden was some of the metal record shops, which seems to be disappearing at a very fast rate. So yeah, I'm glad that it's been received so well by so many people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it looks like everyone. I mean, I saw Ben from Orange Goblin was there just recently. He's actually a previous guest of this podcast as well, you know. And I have a feeling there's going to be a lot more of those kind of crossovers coming soon, you know, because pretty much all of the bands that come into the UK, they pretty much more or less end up running through Camden anyway. So I think you kind of have the perfect thing. Because like in the Camden area, you've got the Camden market where you've got the... I know that there used to be some record shop there, but there was never anything like proper metal and dedicated to what we are doing, you know. So I think you've tapped into a very good thing there, just purely on the specifics of the location alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was something we were looking at, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we've got a great location. So we're, 100 meters away from the Den of the Black Heart and the Underworld and the tube station, Camden Town tube station. So if people are playing, if bands are playing at the Underworld, they tend to drop in by the shop as well and come and have a look, see what we've got, check out the vinyl. We've had a few people like walk up to shelves and go, oh, I was the drummer on that, or I was the guitar player, or, so that's quite cool as well.
I was one of those people.
Yeah. We also get bands that come in as well, and they send a guy from the merch stand, and they've got a couple of albums, and we're like, would you be interested in some of these? We've actually got some rare presses from the bands as well, which is cool. So we've got some sort of exclusive stuff record wise in the shop, which is really nice as well, which is great for fans that can't get to the gigs, that they're able to purchase those kind of things as well.
I absolutely love that, man. I mean, with metal, we've talked about this here so many times, and like the physicality of it is such an important part of our culture. The fact that you get to hold something in your hands, the fact that you get to smell a record, you get to sort of like rub your hand across the artwork whilst you're looking at it, look at all the different attention to detail, put it on the vinyl player, hear the before the album comes on, and there is a lot of that to it, and I think it's great that you've actually invested time and effort into something like this at such an important place. It's almost like it was kind of empty just for you guys to come in and basically do what you're doing now. So congratulations, I guess that's the main thing I can say.
Thank you. Yeah. It was a hole that I guess we wanted to fill. We saw that it needed to be filled. So yeah, it was good that we were able to be able to do that.
How did the idea come up initially about this? Because one thing that's very interesting is that you're not just a record store as such, but it's the fact that it has a very specific theme to it. You've got this very, how shall I put it, very kind of left-hand path area downstairs, which you kindly, of course, let me use for one of these last episodes with Jim Mutilator from Youth Area. But then also on top of that, there's the non-alcoholic element of the shop as well. So just tell us a little bit, how does all of these ideas come through, and how did you go about, I suppose, manifesting them?
So the initial idea for Raven Records was mine. I actually came up with the idea whilst I was doing a walking meditation along the cliffs in Mallorca, I think it was. And it was a meditation about, where are you planning to go with your life, and what are you planning to do? And this idea of Raven Records came to me. It was initially planned to be more of a kind of more focused on the vinyl, and then having more kind of merch and more kind of shop. And then when Ben and I met, we took that initial idea and developed it further. We
added in the coffee and then the alcohol-free bar as well. I'm a recovering alcoholic, so it was important to me to have somewhere that was alcohol-free in terms of drinking. There's lots of sober bars and stuff around in London, but none of them catered for anything metal, and that was one thing that I wanted to try and do. I like going to metal bars and experiencing the whole atmosphere, but I wanted somewhere where there were more 0-0 options, because normally when you go to a bar, the non-alcoholic options are sort of Coke, lemonade, Red Bull and water. If you're lucky, you might get one that does a low alcohol, but most of the time they stick to the 0.5, so that's not something I go up to. For me, that's too dangerous to try one of those. It took me 14 years of sobriety before I'd even try a 0-0 beer, so I still have my boundaries around that. So I wanted to create somewhere within the shop that was completely 0-0, and to showcase how many options there are in terms of 0-0 products on the market, but also keeping it within that metal theme, making it feel like the Crowbar or the Intrepid Fox. There was the places that I grew up drinking, the Black Heart, the Dev, the Underworld. So the idea was to keep it like that, essentially.
This is very interesting. So do you guys currently have Virgin Blood on sale just yet?
Virgin Blood? Not yet. No. We're not kind of, or I'm not that kind of Satanist.
Okay, I was gonna say we can always gather some people, and extract them, but the Elizabeth Bathory style. But no, I think jokes aside, I think that's a tremendous idea, and we should really emphasize, again, coming back to the location, how rare it is to have somewhere that's non-alcoholic, again, in Camden, where literally everyone there, I'm sorry, but the whole entirety of Camden Town, as much as I love it, it's just full of fucking records everywhere, at all times of the day, basically, and I say that in a non-judgmental way, of course, but it's the truth, I mean, I remember I was there when I was stage managing at Cosmic Void Festival last year, and then at 6 or 7 in the morning, I woke up to go get something from the near supermarket, and some lady was just running at people, screaming at them, asking for 50p, so that's the kind of thing that that you're dealing with. But I think it's amazing that I hate to use the word, but safe space that I guess you kind of created there. And I imagine that, like I already said to you, Ben, before already, I bet that there's a lot of people that maybe even try and challenge that just because you have that kind of thing over there.
They do. We've had a lot of jokes that, have you got the words alcohol and free round the wrong way? Which, it's funny the first time, the sort of the 100th time, not so much.
We had someone come in and ask, they said, right, so this is, as you don't serve alcohol, can I do drugs in here? You're like, no.
But I mean, we looked the other day and sort of how many bars and pubs are in Camden, and when I googled it, it just showed you the high street, and there was 20. So I would have thought, you're looking at sort of 30 plus pubs in Camden, so there's always somewhere where you can stumble around and find alcohol. But what we found really interesting is there's been a few people that have spotted the shop, been really excited. You've seen them from the other side of the road, crossed the road, walked over, and then spotted that it says alcohol-free bar, and they've gone somewhere else. It's some kind of weird barrier that they need to have an alcohol-free drink to buy a record. I find that quite interesting as a stumbling block. Like they're not, they don't go hand in hand per se. You don't have to drink a coffee and buy a record. You don't have to have an alcohol-free drink to buy a record. Much in the same way, you don't have to buy a record to have one of the drinks. You can come and chill out and listen to the music. So.
Yeah, I mean, there are some people who just won't come in the shop because we have an alcohol-free bar, which we find a little bit crazy. But that's their
personal choice.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you say that, and I 100%, first of all, I understand from the perspective of a business that on the surface may not seem like the greatest thing, but I think that's kind of fucking cool, just because that just, especially, with the spirit of what at least this genre is about, I think it very much goes hand in hand. It's this very clear line in the sand of, okay, here's what we are about. You can sort of take it or leave it, and from the time that I spent at the shop, there wasn't one moment where you guys were quiet. It seemed like people were going in and out constantly, and it doesn't feel like you're missing out on much anyway in that regards. But it is interesting, I've not known many record stores that serve any kind of drinks in the first place, and I think that what you've created as a niche is very interesting, first and foremost. And for the very few rare people, maybe like myself, it's actually the perfect thing, because obviously I'm someone who's been involved with the underground, both over in the Middle East as well as the UK. And I'm also someone who doesn't drink. I don't take drugs. I've been sober for 2 years. I still take DMT once a year, but that's a totally different thing. That's not, it's more of a spiritual experience that lasts 10 minutes. And yeah, I think that is very good. I mean, I felt very welcome in that sense and in that regards. And just out of curiosity as well, and Ben, I really want to get into your story about all of this as well. Very, very excited and intrigued to hear about that. But Chloe, for you, I'm guessing you are in the same sort of, I guess, trajectory as well. I mean, are you sober as well, or I don't want to make presumptions, you know? So it's an important question for me to ask, I suppose.
Yeah, of course. So I actually haven't had a drink since New Year. So it's something we're coming up to 6 months now. I try and avoid it, if I'm honest. I come from, when I was younger, I was worked as a DJ. So I was a DJ in the dance scene. So I was constantly surrounded by drugs and alcohol. It was very much part of my existence back in those days. So it's, over time, I've come to the conclusion that alcohol has never really had a positive impact in my life. It's actually destroyed a lot of things rather than been positive. And actually, I've come to a point in my life where I want to create and I want to build. I don't want to destroy and sabotage. So for me, it's something I try and stay away from. But if I want to have a drink, I will do.
Well, that's brilliant. I respect that. Funnily enough, I think you put that perfectly, because I think that's exactly, at least the reason why I stopped drinking to begin with, was exactly what you just said there. It's the fact that you want to create rather than destroy. And when you sort of reflect back on the times, like you approach an evening thinking you're going to have fun, and then alcohol is involved, and then on the other side of it, you just feel like shit. And then there's this constant cycle of you're almost like trying to search this feeling, even though every time it leads to the same thing. And then you start and question, it's like, how much fun am I actually having because of this substance? What is fun? Is it the substance, or is it the company, or is it the quality of the experiences that you're having? So that's very interesting to me that you say that. And is that something that I suppose you guys connected over when you met each other?
I think Chloe was actually still drinking when we first met. I mean, I'd just come out of a sort of etch-a-sketch restart of life, essentially. So after lockdown, I got divorced, made redundant, and I was living at work, so I lost my house as well. I think I moved in, about 6 months after we met, because I had nowhere to live. So everything's been sort of a roller coaster ride sort of since we met, really. But it's been amazing. It's been an amazing journey. So I mean, we connected on a few different levels, sort of spiritually as well. So that was quite cool. But it's been a fun journey so far.
Well, amazing. I'm very happy to hear that. Ben, so for yourself, obviously you touched upon the fact that you were recovering, I suppose, I don't know what's the right word for it,
I say alcoholic.
Recovering alcoholic. There you go.
Yeah.
You said it, man. So I know you said that. So I don't know how comfortable you feel about sharing just your own experiences and your own journey of how, where did the realization even come that, this might be a problem, and what your journey's been like so far. I know it's been something that you've dealt with for quite a few years, I suppose.
Yes. So, I mean, 16 and a half years not drinking so far.
Good for you, man. Congratulations.
Thank you. Cheers. So, I mean, I had my first drink that I remember at the age of 11 on a school ski trip. I think I drank 24 bottles of beer by myself in, an hour and a half. At age 11, and it did for me what a phone box did for Clark Kent. It turned me into Superman. I was the little shy red-headed kid at the school, and stuck the alcohol in me, and I wasn't shy anymore. I was the life and soul of the party. I was in the middle of the dance floor. The teachers thought I'd done speed. It was that kind of, I was a completely different person. And then I think kind of when I came back, I was kind of chasing that all the time. I knew I had an issue with alcohol from a very, very young age. So sort of fast forward to sort of 14, 15 years old, and I'm drinking vodka out of like a Sprite bottle this size on the 23-hour coach journey to the ski trip. And, you know, I'm going out with my friends at the weekend, getting drunk on Blackheath. But I'd want to know on Monday what was happening on Friday. I was always planning. If I didn't know by Wednesday what was happening on Friday, you know, life was a disaster. Obviously, I had to hide all that from my parents as well. And then sort of fast forward to my early 20s, 19, I was doing A&R, putting bands on at the Moon Fiddler. That was a lot of drinking with weekend rock stars, essentially. So there's up and coming bands that go out for one night and sort of have a bit of a blowout. And I was doing that 6-7 nights of the week. So my drinking really progressed from there. And then 2007, I had an 8-hour blackout after drinking. And realized that actually, you know, I'd spent 2 years by that point trying to curb my drinking. I worked out sort of 22, I was on nearly 500 units a week. So it's a couple of bottles of whiskey a day. So I had a problem. You know, and I had to sort of curb that. And I've had to do lots of work sort of since then. You know, I've been in AA. I struggled with the whole God concept within that. And then obviously after 8 years of being in AA, I started writing Uncover Satan, Recover Thyself, and then let that out into the universe. Then during the pandemic, we had the online meetings. Those started, and now we're able to have the meetings in the shop, because obviously my recovery journey and Satanic Recovery are sort of separate from the shop. So Satanic Recovery and Raven Records are two separate entities.
Of course. I've actually got the book here for anyone who's watching right now. Uncover Satan, Recover Thyself. A Rational Satanic Recovery. This is very interesting. I want to talk to you about this in just a moment. But that's really interesting, man, you know, and that's quite a high volume. I mean, you already kind of alluded to it by saying that you were the shy kid that then, once alcohol was involved, you were able to express yourself, you know, and believe me, I actually do relate to that. But what do you think even drove to want to have such a high level of exposure to it? What do you think was, I don't know, I suppose at the core of it that pushed you that far?
I guess I'm kind of finding out now, having been diagnosed with ADHD, pure OCD, which is like invasive thinking. I've apparently got EUPD, which is emotionally unstable personality disorder. Potentially have autism as well. That actually it's I'm dyslexic. So I've been battling with all those things that haven't actually been diagnosed until sort of late 30s. That actually I was built differently. My brain was wired differently from other people, and I was trying to fit into that sort of society, and it didn't work. So I was trying to drown out the thinking, essentially, and then by drowning out the thinking, I then got into a shame cycle, and I was drinking to get over the shame and the way I was thinking. It just got worse and worse and worse because I wasn't dealing with the core issues, and I wasn't understanding why I was thinking differently from everyone else.
That's actually very powerful what you're saying there, because I know this. I spoke to a good friend of mine. He was in one of the main sort of Icelandic black metal bands, and we were talking a couple of years ago. And you know, he had been through some stuff with amphetamines and obviously alcohol and all that. And he was saying that when his ADHD got diagnosed, that actually made a tremendously profound and positive impact on his life, because then he actually got to tackle it in the proper way rather than just finding, I don't know, I guess something that temporarily engages with you. So I'm that's interesting to me to hear that you had the similar kind of a thing with that as well, just from finding out that you had it. That seemed to be a positive thing.
Yeah, because obviously the ADHD is a dopamine deficiency, and obviously alcohol gives you a hit of dopamine, you know, as the other drugs and chemicals as well. So because I'm constantly chasing the dopamine because of my ADHD, that, you know, that's what the alcohol was giving me, and then I wasn't understanding that, and then I was getting into different situations because of trying to get that dopamine hit. And then obviously the shame cycle comes in on top of that, and they all overlay together. So now I'm able to sort of have things presented in front of me and go, oh, okay, that's why I have this behavioral trait. Let's try and change it.
How do you go about changing it?
Well, it depends which one it is. I've been doing lots of work at the moment with sort of IFS, which is something that Chloe put me onto, which is internal family systems, which obviously works with different versions of yourself and other sort of individuals that come in with that. So you look at sort of your child self, your teenage self, your parental self, and then you have sort of a detective within you as well, and a protector, and these different things will come up inside you. And I've actually been working with TV programs to go back into the programming that I had as a child, to bring forth traumatic memories and work through those in the way I now know how to do that, by saying, okay, this sort of, so little Ben might be upset by this point. He goes and pokes teenage Ben, and that actually then gives me the behavior trait, and I can then trace that back to the core emotion and deal with the core emotion and stop the chain of behavioral events, if that makes sense.
That's very fascinating. So it's more of like sort of like an emotional sort of mapping, I guess, of how certain reactions might actually manifest.
Yep.
Yeah, like triggers. So you look at what's triggering certain behaviors, whether it's triggering the child in you. So in this case, little Ben or little Chloe, and then working out where has that come from? What's it stemmed from? Does it have historic origins, and then working through it with meditation and with other techniques as well.
This is super fascinating to me. There's one thing that I've actually, there's so much of everything that every single one of us goes through is, shit that's been buried in there from so many years ago. But one thing that I always like to think about, and I'm sorry to anyone listening if this is ad nauseum, but to me, it's very clear that also a lot of times what we express, what we experience, what we feel isn't even necessarily just our own, but it's stuff that our parents, our grandparents, our ancestors went through. And then this DNA, this goddamn semen this data that's been copied and pasted for millions of years with whatever fucking trauma, who knows what kind of trauma's in that thing. We are it. We're sat here and we're alive, and there's so much of that genetic coding. You can look into the spiritual side of it, but just purely from like the very physical data part of it, there's a lot that I think we've been through just to be here, and then we're trying to coexist in this modern society where we're supposed to pretend everything's normal when when fuck knows, the amount of like killings and deaths and murder and grief and disease and all kinds of things that we've all gone through just to be here. And sometimes you wonder, those emotional manifestations, is that just mine, or am I carrying something else that's from way back,
The trauma gets passed down the generations. So, it gets passed from parent to child to parent to child to parent to child. And, what we're trying to do with that is kind of break that cycle so that it doesn't get passed on again.
Yeah, absolutely. And did you have to do lots of sort of meditative work of your own? Because it seems like you both kind of had been on your own separate journeys, and then it seems like this kind of merges in the middle, which I think is beautiful, by the way. That's awesome. I'm happy for you guys, but I'm guessing that you had trials and tribulations of your own somehow, or at least, because normally no one gets into meditation just because they feel good. You know what I mean? At least that's my experience of it.
I've suffered from anxiety my whole life, and that's been a key driver in a lot of my life decisions and a lot of my choices. By drinking, it helps with the anxiety. Anxiety goes away. Unfortunately, the next day anxiety comes back 10 times worse. I've done a lot of work over the past couple of years through therapy and through exploration to try and get to the root cause of that, which has resulted in me being diagnosed as ADHD. And that has explained a lot of things for me. Like you said with your friend, suddenly the lights went on. I was like, oh, okay, so that's why I've done this and this. That's why I couldn't, why I moved around so much, why I, want to do 10 things at once. And, it just started to make a lot of sense for me. Yeah.
So that's why you were going on long walks alongside a cliff in Mallorca, yeah?
It was one of my many great ideas, yeah.
No, that's interesting, and listen, I by the way, I do really appreciate that, questions that I am asking, they're very personal. Of course, I appreciate you both being very open about all of this on here, and by all means, if we go somewhere where you're not comfortable sharing, just, there's no problem with that. We're just sharing ideas here. So one thing in particular, Ben, that I really want to discuss with you now is the should we say, the satanic approach to all of this, because this is a very unique thing. I've never seen this before. And also the idea of rational Satanism. I mean, what is rational Satanism, if you wouldn't mind enlightening me?
So essentially it springboards on from LaVey's concept and brings in more sort of scientific thinking. And I suppose looking at what LaVey did from a slightly different angle, I love.
So it's more of the sort of like the atheistic approach to Satanism. Am I right?
I would say atheistic. So atheists as in they don't believe in a sky fairy or a ground troll. You have the theistics, that obviously the devil worshippers that believe in an actual deity. You have the agnostics that normally believe it as they're more, I suppose, spiritual Satanists, as in it's an energy or a force. I'm an atheist, as in I am God because I am master of my own reality. So in terms of the AA sense, my higher power is my future self. It's something that doesn't exist, and it's something that I aspire to be like. Something that I'm manifesting and creating is my future self.
So okay, that's interesting. So what would you describe your idea of a god to be then? Because I know you said that's something that you had difficulty with in AAs, which, by the way, is true, because AAs are like almost always, if not like entirely, a Christian-based thing, which I understand works for some people, and I certainly don't judge them for that, but it feels a little bit like maybe there's like a little bit of a point being missed there as well, that maybe you can find some kind of empowerment without, I don't know, the complete submission to just a set of ideologies for the sake of it. So what does that idea of a god represent to you personally?
Well, it's the best version of me that I can be, essentially. That is that concept of God. So if you take the Christian sense, I suppose we're all made in the image of God. That's because the divine spark lives within us and we express our divinity externally by how we present ourselves to the outside world.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. I absolutely love that quote, by the way.
Our own gods, we're all our own gods, expressing ourselves externally, and then we can change the things we want to change. We just have to be able to believe that we can do it, and then put the motivation, the action in to actually achieve that.
So you believe that there is some kind of a substantial, I suppose, force that you may not be able to see with the eye, or are you saying that it's simply just what you're experiencing, just so we can kind of narrow it down?
I mean, we're all kind of experiencing our own reality or version of reality. So your obviously reality from where you are right now is different from mine. So I'm just able to manipulate my reality around me, and that's what I'm trying to do through working on childhood traumas to change my behaviors, to have an impact and change the, I guess, the vibrational frequencies that I put out, you know, causing more ripples and stuff around me. Most people might think that's a bit woo-woo and a bit kind of out there, but it, you know,
no, but we are woo-woo here. That's why I'm talking about this.
Yeah, you know, but you know, from what I'm seeing, sort of when you look at psychology and science and so I suppose quantum physics and stuff, it all comes under the umbrella of magic. It's just, you know, things are spoken about using different languages, and for me, that's all magic is. It's understanding a language to present to the universe or your subconscious, and you're able to then move things and change things through that.
Okay, cool. Now we're talking. So the thing to me is that you know, I like that kind of approach, you know, because I also like to think that we are also connected, that all of us are connected on this planet. You know, that doesn't mean that we are the same. However, we come from the same place, you know, and through that original source is where we all connect, you know. You want to talk about man being made in the image of God? Simply think about the fact that us as humans are made of the same molecules as a dying star. And you know, and that in itself is something that you can't find elsewhere in our little world, if you want to call it. And I think that in itself is a very fascinating thing. You know, I think what's also interesting to me is that you can look at this from multiple perspectives and it'll still be true. Like I, from also looking at your book, get the impression that you look at the idea of God as in that God is something that's just an extension of us, or that's a reflection of us. Mm-hmm. For me personally, the idea of a God is more so that, you know, I like to think that we are reflections of it, so that we're an extension of God's ego somehow. You know, there's a line in the TRIVAX song "Twilight of Death." It's the very opening line. You can go look at it from your shelf. It says, "I am a dead star dreaming the cosmic cycle, and you know, trapped into pieces to experience time. Many times I've lived and died, including this life, but it's time to begin." And that's the, you know, to me, that's sort of like the very core part of our existence. You know, like to me, the rage that we feel sometimes, the anguish, the sorrow, the ego, and all of those things to me are also reflections of God in a way, when it's put within a certain specific context, or at least I think so anyway. So that's an interesting approach to me. So how do you find empowerment, at least in the idea of Satan, especially to the point that it allows you to find yourself on a path of recovery and taking control of your own life? Because that's essentially what you're doing, is taking control of your path in life, you know, and simply put, getting your shit together.
Yeah. So for me, essentially, Satanism is about personal responsibility. If you understand that Satan comes from the Hebrew ha-Satan, meaning opponent, adversary, or accuser, then by believing in yourself, you sit in opposition to something that, or somebody that believes in something else. So therefore, all the power, then responsibility is within me. So then I have the power to change everything. I have the power to do that. And the only essentially only entities then that will stop me are me. You know, it's the barriers that I put in the way. You know, I'm the one that will stop me from doing things. It might come from someone else, but you know, I can push through those barriers and work through them and go, no, I'm going to do this. You know, how determined are you to do it? You know, how much do you want to do the thing that you're claiming you want to do? And it's about that driving force then, and saying, actually, no, I am really determined to do this. You know, it's a struggle, it's difficult, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to push through. And you know, you then show yourself that you can do that, or show the universe that you can do that. And so it depends then what language you're using and how you want to refer to your subconscious. So you know, I guess it's as above, so below, as within, so without. You know, if I change things in the universe, I change things in myself. If I change things in myself, I change things in the universe.
Absolutely. Okay. Very good. I mean, that's all very relatable for me personally, like it's easy, like the thing that I'm trying to avoid here, I could as someone who's somewhat read up on theistic Satanism and the Qliphoth and, all that, I'm trying to avoid getting into it from the ideological perspective of, well, actually, this is what they really believe and this is what you can do, and I guess the term Satanism itself is something that, I don't think it's ever had one sort of settled definition, because it's something that pretty much anyone and everyone can say that they're a Satanist and they can mean something completely different, and that can somewhat, I guess, apply to Christianity or Islam, but at least they have like a manual for those, you know what I mean? So it's just kind of like if you don't get it, then refer back to the manual, and then there's obviously different depictions of that, but at least it's a little more settled. Satanism is something, or even the idea of Iblis, all of these are very I feel very liquid things, so you can kind of make your own conclusions of them. However, purely just based on what you're saying as far as a philosophy of a life, I couldn't agree with that more. I think that's actually a very relatable path and very much a relatable approach to take. And I think it's interesting. So ultimately, it's very much a life-affirming approach. Would you say that's right?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I think when you read LaVey's text originally, that's what it was about. He said it was a life-loving philosophy about rewarding the here and now rather than an imaginary afterlife, and that's what it should be about, But then obviously working on from that and jumping off from that with rational Satanism, I bring in things like the occult and ceremonial magic and, yoga, meditation and those kind of things. That make it my own, that I think that's the beauty of Satanism, that everyone will have a different path and they'll all walk it differently because they all have different needs and different wants, and then no one's a sheep. We're goats essentially in the same field, all eating in different areas. Sheep will herd together, goats will look around the field at eating different places, look for the weak spots in the fences and escape.
No, well, sure. I definitely am. If I was a goat, I definitely would have been one that would have broken down all the fences and all the rocks and all the little stuff. Farmers would have shot themselves by now out of stress. So I think that's very cool, though. I love this conversation because it goes in line with at least what I'm about. Now, we can really dissect it here, in terms of like that whole idea of afterlife and things like that, because those are also things that I do believe in. I just think that our understanding of it is extremely limited. Like one thing that I feel like we always do, and I wonder what are your thoughts on this, and Chloe, please, by all means, feel free to interject here if you like. But to me, I think... So I like the idea of saying that all of these things, whether it's quantum physics or religion or astrology or whatever, if all of these things do fall under the subcategory of magic, because to me, that's simply us just trying to understand the world that we live in, which honestly, we have so fucking little understanding of it even now, even though we think that we're evolved. We don't know shit. And, the most important thing is that we, first of all, don't know our own history and where the fuck we came from, and that in itself is something that would change everything if we actually knew how that happened. How on earth over 2 million years our brain size doubled. You can't explain things like that very easily. Or how in the Amazons, when the tribes were experiencing psilocybin, allegedly the gods approached them and told them that out of these 10,000 plants that you've got here, if you mix these specific two, I'll let you do the maths of how rare and odd those statistics are, but if you mix these two, you get ayahuasca, and then you really get to communicate with the other side, which of course, we now know that to be a thing. So there's a lot to unpack there, but I guess the most important thing with us is to, rather than trying to change the world and everything else, like you said, start with yourself. Start with wanting to become the better version of yourself, and do so day by day. I mean, just as a personal example also, don't want to ramble on too much, but as a personal example, I used to be 120 kilos. That's like 19 stone in British measurements. And I lost about close to like a third of that, and that was also at a time when my life was a fucking mess, and I was just completely obese. Didn't know how to talk to people, didn't know how to, sort of like market myself, if you will. It's a cheesy word, but it's true. You got to learn to do that in life. And, I had to change that, and that takes time, and you have to apply it day in, day out, just trying to be the best version of yourself, which I can recognize in you both, actually, that's something that you've applied yourself to, and I hope that there's someone sat there right now listening to this thinking, oh, things might be shit right now, but maybe I actually have a chance at this. That's why I like talking about this.
Yeah, I mean, one of the cards that actually came up in the tarot that we both pulled just before we met was the Tower, and that for me is all about smashing things down and starting again. So if you are in the shit, remember that that's fertilizer, and all the stuff that's crumbled around you opens up a space of ultimate expanse. If there's nothing in front of you, you can go as far as you want to go. You don't have any boundaries or anything stopping you. So for me, it's one of the tattoos I have around my arm here is the occult meaning of INRI, which was written above Jesus, and it means through fire nature is reborn whole, which means you need to destroy something in order to create something new, which is the Tower. I guess we both let go of our old lives to create what we've got in front of us now.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it was also the best Sarcophago album that ever came out in Brazil. So, yeah. No, I love that concept, actually. So, was this with Nina, by the way? Our mutual friend, Nina?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, the tarot. We did do an interview with Nina. Yeah, we did a couple of weeks ago. But this is it was our first proper date, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
And we both pick a tarot card each day. And we were talking,
all right.
On our over an alcohol-free drink, and we both realized that we picked the same card for the day, which was the Tower. We knew then that there was something very special going on.
Yeah.
Talk about a cool first date idea. Fucking hell.
I guess we both do tarot, so I mean it's part of my daily practice. So yeah.
Yeah, I find it to be interesting. I did one with Nina on their channel. When was this? I think it was it in January? I think it was. I'm very good with dates, so I should remember. We did one together, and we ended up fucking crying. I don't know if for anyone listening to this right now, go check out what's their thing called, Serpent's Temple. Go check it out. It's fucking. It was like one of the wildest fucking thing I've ever done, captured on camera, because of the meaning of everything that it came up with. I won't give too much spoilers, but needless to say, it was a powerful experience. I find that to be a wild thing. So sometimes you can't help but feel like the universe is just like watching you back, like you can't help but be like, hey, this is, I am at that point in my life right now where I can very like with a lot of confidence and with a lot of stern evidence in my lifetime, I can say that there are no coincidences. Like, fuck that idea. Whoever told us that there's coincidences is trying to distract us. There's definitely no such thing. Whatever happens is like it was meant to happen, Yeah,
I mean, we kind of experienced something like that as well, didn't we, with the clocks? Something happened to me sort of not long after we met, where I kept seeing double numbers in the clocks, like 10 10, 11 11, 21 21, stuff like that. It went on for about 3 months, and I would literally turn around and the clocks would all be the same number, and duplicate numbers. Chloe even tried to do it as well and couldn't do it, and I was literally like, oh, there it is, there it is, there it is, and I knew exactly for like about 3 months I was literally just hitting every double number I could see. It was really weird.
Every time you looked at your phone, your watch, it was the cooker, it was like, like, what's going on? And yeah, I thought I'd give it a go, and yeah, no, he wasn't making it up.
Yeah. And this is why I don't think coincidences are a thing, because as it stands, I've been experiencing that myself for about, I would say, close to 3 years now. And it's so much become a regular part of my life at this point that I'm kind of like, cool. It's kind of like you see the nod. It's almost like, to me, when I see that, I just think that that's like it's like an eye that's looking at you. It's like, yeah, go on. You're doing the right thing. You're on the right path. I'm watching you. That's how I feel when I see it. I don't know if you feel similarly, but it's fascinating.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, and sometimes it asks you, how much do you actually really want it?
Yeah. Well, it doesn't ask, it tests you.
Yeah. It tests you constantly. How much do you actually want this?
Yeah. No, it's very interesting. Like how we can really get into the deep and esoteric here, but how the idea of electrons, where they know when you're observing them, they actually change format and they change shape when you look at them. I don't know if you knew this, but what's and this is absolutely a mind-blowing experiment, but I think they discovered somehow that even if you take pictures of the electrons, and then even if you observe them in the future, they still change format. And that's a very fucking wild one, I always felt particularly weird about that one, especially because when you look at pictures of dead people, it always feels like there's a difference between when you look at the pictures of a person that's alive. It's like intuitively there's something that's different about it. I don't know if it's the belief or there's something else, but and I think that based on that general conclusion, I think that the universe can always tell what your intent is. And it will always respond to you based on your intent. It's not always what you say out loud or what you think or what you do, but it just responds purely to your intent, which, by the way, is a fucking terrifying thing, because everyone likes to think that, oh, I'm a good person, I'm doing the right thing. No, that universe, it can see right through you. And what you're going to get, the results in your life, are going to be based on that intent. So tread carefully, I say.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think that I think we're giving people a lot to sort of chew on, and to sort of maybe go back home and kind of ponder to themselves about this. It's been absolutely lovely talking to you both about this. I guess we can kind of just wrap things up by just bringing the focus back onto the to the record store itself, and just I don't know, I'll let you guys plug it and and go for it however way you wish, and let people come and check it out for themselves. I mean, what can you tell us about Raven Records? What times are you open? Where are you guys?
Yeah, so we're a heavy metal record shop. We also have an alcohol-free bar, and we serve heavy metal themed coffee. And
so it's Behemoth coffee, Black Coffee Worship, Black Prison tea, occult-based tea. So yeah.
And we, in terms of music, we stock all genres of metal. So everything from the bands that started the genre right through to kind of more extreme forms of metal to, things like glam metal and sleaze and 80s, 80s bands, hair bands. So a bit of everything, really. We wanted to make sure that we covered all of the kind of metal family tree in what we sold.
Absolutely.
we've got events as well. So we've got like London battle jackets coming in. We do recovery meetings on a Sunday. So I do satanic recovery meetings on a Sunday in the shop between 11 and 12. So you get to speak to me about sort of recovery for an hour on a Sunday, which hopefully some people enjoy and get something out of. Obviously, I'll talk to people in the shop if they want to come in and talk about that anyway. What else have we got coming up?
So we've got band signings and events. We've recently had a listening party, an exclusive listening party with Orange Goblin. So yeah, we've got a few coming up and lined up. So yeah, watch this space. Everything we put it out on Instagram. So if you don't follow us, our Instagram is Raven Records _ sorry, Camden. Yeah, give us a follow.
It's in the description. People can find the links for it. It's just a quick click away, to support you guys.
Rat jackets as well. So we should hopefully be getting in some Dark Throne jackets again soon, which are very popular. We've got all the other denims that they do as well. Campfire. Who else is there? Black Prism. Oh, sorry, Black Pyramid. I'm trying to think. Borknagar. And we've got some other ones coming in soon, apparently. So yeah. And we're the only bricks and mortar store at the moment where you can actually buy Norwegian rat jackets, so you come try them on first.
That's awesome. There you go. There you have it. By the way, just a quick question. Those Behemoth coffees, are they actually any good? I've never tried them.
They are very good. Yes, they are very good.
So the coffee is 100% Arabica bean. We import it directly from Poland. You can't buy it in the UK. You can't drink it in the UK. You can only buy it in. So we're the only place in the UK where you can actually come and drink a Behemoth coffee.
Before you go on their web store and buy it.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty fucking cool. I'll have to try some of those next time, because I'm a massive coffee lover. And our friends over down at Black City Records in Bristol, that's a really good record shop. I'm sure you're familiar with them. They gifted me with one, and that's quite all right. And yeah, I've never tried a Behemoth one, so I'll be coming down again to your shop, I think, in a few weeks' time. So I'll try some of that then.
We've actually got the same brand that they have at Black City as well, which is Black Coffee Worship. We've got our own Raven Records brand of coffee. And actually, since drinking the coffee in the shop, I can't drink coffee anywhere else anymore. It doesn't even touch the sides. It's nice. Like it's this. So yeah, the coffee is high quality.
So all of our coffees serve black. We use the pour over method, which extracts a lot of the impurities in the coffee, so you get a much cleaner cup of coffee. Using the pour over method, it means that the coffee is the perfect drinking temperature as well, so you don't need to add milk to it. All the coffee is designed to drink black as well, so it's all high quality coffee. Yeah.
That sounds like my kind of coffee. Fuck yeah. Awesome. Thank you for that explanation. I'd love to try some in a few weeks. Guys, Ben, Chloe, listen, I wish you both the very best with your endeavor here. And I cannot recommend the shop any more to everyone who has already listened to this. And yeah, I very much look forward to visiting you guys again. I think quite soon, actually, in about a couple of weeks or 2-3 weeks. I think I'm going to be back down there again. And yeah, thank you very much both for joining me on Iblis Manifestations.
Thank you very much. Yeah. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, thank you. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Awesome. Hell yeah. And to everyone else listening to the podcast,